is my testing apparatus for the 1982 Cadillac Sedan de Ville AM FM cassette CB in-dash radio. I found this car in a Denver area junkyard the other day and I knew it was something special. That year Cadillac would sell you an 8-track or cassette deck with a CB built in. Very expensive option back then. This car has the notorious V8 4-cylinder deactivation engine that proved to be such a headache for GM. So I was mostly interested in the engine when I started poking around this car. Then I saw the CB switch and I noticed the microphone hanging under the dash, and I knew I had to have this radio and everything associated with it. I had my trusty lightweight all-purpose junkyard toolbox with me, so I knew I could grab all the stuff. It took me a couple of hours of sweating and cursing to get everything out, and I skipped the antenna because it was broken, but otherwise I got everything I needed. So I've got the radio itself. It's actually being propped up on the coffin handle door pull from the same car, which I really just had to buy. Over here we have the CB itself, which lives way in the back of the behind the dash area and is a real pain to get out. Here it is up against the firewall and behind the defroster ducts. I have the antenna right now just hooked up to this center-loaded cheap magnet mount CB antenna, because what it really wants to have is this antenna splitter that goes to a special power antenna in the fender that can tell if it needs to use the center load to make it a CB antenna rather than the much shorter wavelength of FM radio. I don't care. I'm just testing to see if the CB component works correctly. And then the first speaker in my garage I could lay my hands on was this Pioneer from a 1991 Lexus LS400. I believe this is the front door speaker. And then I've got a cassette here. I've already determined that the cassette player doesn't seem to work, but I've got one here anyway. My old band. And here is the genuine GM badged microphone. Over here, I have a CB walkie-talkie that I will use to check compatibility with the Cadillac CB radio. And right here is the power control station from my garage, naturally built entirely out of junkyard stuff, as one does. I am going to flip this switch, which I think is a Mercedes-Benz hazard switch. Give it 12 volts. We're going to check it out. Okay, so I actually forgot to hook up the test leads to the 12-volt power outlet. So let's try this again. We're going to hit the Mercedes switch, give this thing 12 volts of juice. We're seeing an FM readout here. I'm going to switch it to CB. We're on channel 21. Sounds good. Let's turn down the squelch a little bit, turn up the volume, and got some static coming out of here. You can't really hear it so well because I got the volume down. And that's partly because when I talk into this walkie-talkie, which is a distance of maybe 18 inches between antennas, I don't want it to blow our brains out with incredible noise. So here we go. Breaker, channel 21, breaker. As you can see, perhaps the range between the 4-watt walkie-talkie and the high gain, well, not really, but the fairly efficient antenna of 2 feet, a little too much for this. But as you can tell, it makes noise when I talk into it. CB seems to work fine. FM works fine. When I put this cassette in, it does not work fine. So I still will make a boombox out of this because I'll have CB and FM, and really, in a boombox, what more do you need than that? So when you want to change channels on the CB, use the same tuning knob you would actually use for FM. Actually, I don't know why it switched between FM and CB by itself, but here we go. It's a 40 channel, naturally, because it's 1981. And this is just probably cost the equivalent of about $2,000 for this option back in 1981. Worth every cent. You could do a big 10-4 to the trucker man, just like in the war song. What will I do with this fine piece of Delco early 80s technology? Of course, I'm going to build a junkyard parts boombox so that I can take it to 24 Hours of Lemons races and have people dance to it at the traditional Friday night paddock party.